The Gary Lamb Network is a viewer-supported channel.
The number one reason for sex education is for procreation. That is it. I don't have to teach my kids about homosexuality, sex, because that's not why I tell them about sex.
I think that the threat that is being talked about in this conversation is amped up. It's over-exacerbated.
You plow into me with 2 fingers and I am mostly shocked. It feels like rubber against an open wound. I do not like it. You begin pushing faster and faster, but I feel nothing. You search my face for a reaction, so I begin acting like the naked woman in the videos you watch when you think no one is looking.
What is it that you want the schools to teach about our community?
Well, firstly, I think we should teach children that gay people have not just popped up in 2015, that there is a long documented history of gay people or any other letter in the LGBTQ community that's been here since ancient civilizations and how they showed up in ancient civilization.
Tip.
As the U.S. Supreme Court considers student loan debt forgiveness, a Christian college in Missouri is asking the court to hear its case about gender and dorm assignments. If you've ever taken a trip to Branson, Missouri, you've probably heard of College of the Ozarks. It's a small, prestigious Christian institution for higher education nestled in the Ozark Mountains in a place called Point Lookout. Less than 1,500 students are enrolled, but the college receives thousands of applications from those wanting to attend there. That's because the college offers free tuition. But unlike many students pushing for debt forgiveness, these students work for their tuition.
You work for 40 hours a week for 12 weeks, and that pays for your room and board for the fall and the spring semester.
I've worked at the laundry, I've worked at the warehouse, I've worked at the Keter Center, I've worked in the construction department. I've done it intentionally to get a well-rounded work education.
It's incredibly important, I think, to our country to graduate people who understand that being debt-free is a good thing and that debt is bad. And if you want something, you work for it.
What a concept. Work hard and your debt is forgiven. This college emphasizes character and patriotism and, of course, Christian values. Back in 2021, President Biden signed an executive order barring gender discrimination. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, applied gender identity to the 1968 Fair Housing Act. As a result, the federal government is now trying to force the College of the Ozarks to open its bathrooms, showers, and dorm rooms to whatever gender someone thinks they are at the time. A biological male could room and shower with a female co-ed if he identifies as a female. C of O says that it is discrimination against them. They're a religious institution. It would force the college to abandon its biblical principles and its faithful commitment to God regarding sex and marriage. The Eighth Circuit Court ruled against the college, and that's why the school wants the Supreme Court to take up the case. Folks, this violates the U.S. Constitution and the right of freedom of religion. Let me remind you of Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, which says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That means the government cannot impose another faith, in this case, woke secular humanist religion, on the school. It also applies to President Biden and HUD. They cannot force a college to violate Christian principles, its beliefs about sex and gender, or anything else, because to do so would impose another belief system, in actuality, a government-conceived religion, on the institution. The Supreme Court must take up this case. Religious institutions must be excluded from this HUD rule. It is of utmost importance to American society to restate our guaranteed commitment to the First Amendment and religious freedom. If the government erodes the right of citizens to freely adopt and practice their own religious beliefs without religious freedom, the country is no longer free. And the democracy that the president and many politicians continually warn us is under threat will cease to exist. Well, that's it today from the Global Lane. Be sure to follow us on the CBN News and NRB channels, social media, and our broadcast affiliates. And until next time, be blessed.
We've had this conversation recently. There's those in that particular community that just want to live their life in peace and leave people alone. But then you get the loud ones with the big mouths, and they're the ones that's causing this issue. So because the big mouths are the ones that are extreme, that's why they want to take it to the Supreme Court. Just like there was another story last year about an LGBTQ person in that community. It was in like West Virginia or something, and they brought it to the Supreme Court. So same difference.
Yeah.
This is the cornerstone of this country happens to be the religious freedom and the religious belief of this country. Don't touch.
Do not touch.
Do not touch. Hard no. Supreme Court.
Or Supreme Court. I'm
I
with
get
you
it.
on that. Now, there are many individuals who are gay and homosexual that are starting to denounce the whole LGBTQ thing because it's gone too extreme.
This Friday, March 31st, is Trans Day of Visibility.
Hi, Hector.
If you don't know that what Trans Day of Visibility is, it's basically a celebration of trans and gender non-binary people.
Do you mean this celebration?
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Or how about this celebration? Oh, Hector, you must mean this celebration.
But then you have people in Twitter spaces who was fighting against this stuff.
This is going to have to be dealt through, in my opinion, through social intervention and through the parents and society. That's just how you properly educate people. Enforcing it through an education system that even us as transsexuals and most gay people don't agree with is how it's being educated is the problem.
Exactly. How do we decide what is taught?
There's definitely inappropriate materials being found in these schools, and it's well out there. And if you have not seen it, I would suggest that you need to go over and escape a little bit out of the maybe the news zone that you're in. There's definitely more news out there. And then I also would take a big disagreement with the contention against Mike saying this is his personal experience. Like, you are yourself presenting your personal experience and your personal perspective. So I just want to make sure that we have that put into place as well. And as well, let me see here. These could be something that could be perpetuated in private colleges where they have the right to kind of suggest what is and what is not taught. Those are private colleges. They're private institutions. I believe in capitalism. But if my tax dollars is going towards something, I'm paying for something which I already disagree with anyway. I'm going to suggest what is taught to people. And these kids are coming out of high school. They don't know how to even do their taxes. They don't know how to run it, like to even do like low level businesses or help pay their rent, or even just these basic things. Like, these kids are coming out failing, can't even figure out what their gender is. The suggestion that schools need to educate people on specific groups, the issue with that is that it is a slippery slope fallacy because we are an ever-changing society. There's always new groups happening, and these groups change, and we would always be continuously, in quotations, educating people on groups. There would never be a stop to it.
There are several different points that are completely different arguments as a whole, like what is appropriate for a child, age of consent for a child to even be forced to take part in an education that they may themselves not want anything to do with, parental rights and where that ends versus the school's rights to overwrite the parent and their own education, and what is too far. Like, what's really happening in these schools is a gross overcorrection. I had parents reaching out to me, asking me to help them and speak at their school. The last list of books I protested against and went to a school board speaking against was The Sun and Her Flowers, Milk and Honey, Me and Earl and a Dying Girl, Crank, Beyond Magenta, Heartstoppers Volume 2, Lawn Boy, and Flamer. And all these being available in the school, and some of them made it down to grade schoolers. I would rather have schools focus on actually like being, especially like high school level, having some level of trade school education going in there to allow them to go into being productive members of society. How about instead of teaching another year of French, we teach them C++ or Python? Like, what should we be making the real focus of schools education, where we're being somewhat selfish and pushing our own agendas and wants about sexuality that they don't necessarily need to have?
I'm going to pass it over to Gary.
The number one reason for sex education is for procreation. That is it. I don't have to teach my kids about homosexuality, sex, because that's not why I tell them about sex. I tell them about sex because if you decide to have sex with a woman, This would happen. I don't have to tell you about gay sex or whatever sex. That's none of their business. When it comes down to teaching my children about being, what do they say, tolerant and fair, I've already done that. I have to trust that white people are going to teach their kids not to discriminate against my kids simply because they're Black. I have to trust that. I can't run into a school and say, well, you're going to teach your kids this way because this is how it's going to make my kids feel. I can't do that. I cannot do that at all. So for anyone that's saying we need to teach you about gay, this, and no, we don't. I'm not about to play this game. Like, I care more about what you think when it comes down to my kids, because I don't. And for someone that was talking about this earlier, they were saying, do we have to apologize for what transgenders done and stuff like that? And the answer is no, you don't. Unfortunately, you're grouped in. I can't tell the difference. I don't know which one is the hothead or the nice one. I don't have time to trust that either. I'm complete. Thank you for listening.
No, I greatly appreciate you giving your space or your piece, and I would say that you're 100%, like, I believe you're tolerant. You're tolerant by just being in here and even like wasting your time on us in a sense. And like, you don't have to be here. Like, I respect that you came in here just to hear us out. And the one thing I want to echo off Gary before I pass it over is that, yeah, no, I don't know who wants to take intention with this, but like, yeah, we do need to teach a society that the only sex education that should be taught is procreation, because, you know, gay people don't realize we are a minority and there won't be a society without the nuclear family. Maybe people don't like think of it like that, but without procreation of straight people, there is no space for us, because we can't continue society, especially with our small minority. Even if we were to like impregnate the lesbians, like, that's all we have. Like, it's just not going to work. So let's let America go, because America's heard us going on for a while.
Well, I appreciate that, Rita, and I appreciate you for having this conversation as maturely as you're having it. I will say that I think that the threat that is being talked about in this conversation, as it is mentioned in a lot of the conversations a lot of conservatives especially have about this topic, is amped up. It's over-exacerbated. We're not going to sit here and act as if over 50% of the curriculum in you know what I'm saying, even 20 school districts is targeted towards teaching children about the LGBTQ community. At best, these school districts dedicate 1 to 2 weeks or a couple of days to mentioning, not even going into full depth, mentioning LGBTQ issues. Moreover, I think it is, while I appreciate and accept everybody's opinions and personal experiences and anecdotes, a lot of what I'm hearing is just that. Opinions and anecdotes. I'm hearing a lot of what you personally don't like. I'm hearing a lot of what you personally feel comfortable with. I'm hearing a lot of what you've had conversations with parents about. That, again, it is not indicative of the whole. If I'm in a room full of people that believe in capitalism and freedom and all the things that conservatism preaches and celebrates, then we cannot sit here and say we're personally offended because some school districts dared to mention LGBTQ history or LGBTQ-ness in their schools. I think if you want to pull your children out of public school, you can do that. No one's stopping you from pulling your children out of the school district and putting them in a private school that's not going to teach those things. Someone mentioned before, I think it was Rita, somebody mentioned before about leaving it to this whole conversation we've said, leaving it to the parents. While I agree and can compromise with that, at the same time, up until this point, we have been deferring teaching LGBTQ stuff to the parents. And where has that gotten us? It's gotten us next to nowhere. It's gotten us to a bunch of people who are scared to bring the issue up, or have allowed people who, as y'all have mentioned, are not a part of the community that's been defining what we are for us. And so then that further builds the fear. So again, I pose the same question. Are we going to teach children the fantasy of what we want them to think when they grow up, so that they don't have the tutelage and the skills to be functioning adults that can sit in the same room with people that differ from them? Or are we going to teach them the real world, how things really work? coinciding with bills and balancing a checkbook and teaching about different histories around the world and teaching about different religions and teaching about different cultures and teaching about different food, teaching about all those kind of other things. Why can't that be a part of the conversation as well?
And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mike because Mike has had his hand up forever.
So, America, a question. What is it that you want the schools to teach about our community? Because from my understanding, the only thing about my community that has any remote need to be taught in schools is when they made gay marriage legal because it's part of American history. That's the only thing that affects everybody as a society.
Well, firstly, I think we should teach children that gay people have not just popped up in 2015. That there is a long documented history of gay people or any other letter in the LGBTQ community that's been here since ancient civilizations, and how they showed up in ancient civilizations and how they were socialized in those ancient civilizations like Egypt, Babylon, parts of Europe, other places like that. Secondly, I would like to teach them about the American history of the LGBTQ community. People like Francis Thompson, William Dorsey Swann, Stormy DeLavernay, people that really ushered in not just LGBTQ rights, but civil rights in general. Civil rights for other groups of people that were marginalized in this country, people that fought alongside of Martin Luther King, John Lewis and others that were fighting for civil rights across the country. I would like to teach them about Stonewall and the history of Stonewall. That was something that I learned in school, about the fighting back against a system that literally was against them. I would like to teach them about Executive Order 10450, where President Eisenhower, that was ushered in by President Hoover 30 years beforehand, had called gay people sexual deviants who were Russian spies that were trying to usher in communism into the United States, and the systematic removal of people that were otherized from the government workplace that sprinkled into nonprofit organizations not hiring gay people, to gay people being thrown out on the street, to gay people having this notion that they're spreading diseases, that they're spreading communism, and how they were literally systematically from the top down, from the federal government down, systematically removed from society, and how the community had to build itself back up. You can touch on ballroom culture. There's so many different parts of history that is exclusatory of the sex part, of the marriage part, that makes our history so beautiful, so great, so worthy of it being taught. But because we've allowed people to minimalize our history to gay marriage and to who we sleep with, we don't even value our own history. And that's a problem. That's why the school system needs to teach it, so that you understand the value in your identity beyond what other people tell you it should be.
Can I respond quickly?
Yes, very quickly.
So basically, gay people, LGBT people, I mean, they know we existed because we're human. We don't get a special title. Civil rights in regards to the homosexual community would be taught in selective sociology classes. Laws and changes to American history would be taught in colleges when it's applicable to the degree that you're seeking. Not everybody needs to know about Stonewall. That's up for our community to teach our community. I think our community has lost the sense of community within ourselves because we're trying to push things onto people that have no interest. Like I'm normalizing my sexuality by I'm an American first. Like who I sleep with has nothing to do with society. That's a personal choice between two consenting adults. Like that needs to be normalized. And when we're screaming these types of rhetoric that somehow we're different and special, we're not. It's only who we fuck. That's the realistic side.
Honestly, Mike, I respect you. I think you're purposefully trying to find ways to twist the history so that I need you to sit in it.
I'm gonna have to just stop it there. I'm sorry, I gotta stop it there because no, I'm sorry. You load the language so much that people have so many points to get to this. I hold so much contention with everything you said, but I'm gonna make mine extremely short. From my perspective, what you're associating is hyperly anecdotal, hyper focused. I don't even believe I agree with any of those people that you listed. In the sense also, in the sense, like I was saying, like if you were in here earlier, you would know I'm actually not even pro civil rights in a sense, because the civil rights movement is an infringement on the an infringement on the First Amendment. And that's my stance on that. So I would not allow civil rights, like that sort of, in a sense, I think of that as propaganda, because that's kind of Marxist propaganda.
I have to take this conversation. Y'all have a good one.
Okay, that's fine.
That's what we're teaching.
So I had a perspective. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Everyone can go ahead and give their points. I'm going to shut the fuck up. Sorry.
Did they say Marxist propaganda?
Yes. But that's what they're teaching. If you don't like it, you call names and walk away.
I was going to ask them what
He was such a beautiful person to listen to. I can't wait to invite him to cookouts and family dinners. Oh my God, I would love to talk to this person on another level. This is the reason why this right here is why people like me shun away from this conversation. Those guys.
Well, Gary, I hope that you're looking at, the trannies as hosts and co-hosts and the faggot over here with the American flag in the name.
And let logic go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned something that caught my ear when they were saying in the schools it's only taught for 2 weeks or it's only taught for a couple days. I mean, how could that be the case when we're looking at videos and pictures of pride flags being hung up in the classrooms and the progressive pride flags being hung up in the classrooms? You have your narcissistic, non-binary LGBT teacher that are introducing themselves and talking about their sexuality and their gender identity to the whole classroom. And to just really sit in there, kind of cognitive dissonance is what I would chalk it up to. Because you can't tell me that I'm looking at a classroom that's hanging up a pride flag on the wall all year long and telling me that they're only teaching LGBT for 2 weeks or a few days out of the week.
You have so many, even on the channel, different platforms, whatever, that really it's just like, and one commenter said, well, I just wish we just shut up about it and, I hope it goes away. It ain't going away. It's not going away. It is getting worse and more severe. And to the point that the folks that are even in that particular LGBTQ community, some are leaving because it's getting out of
hand.
So how it's not gonna go away.
No.
And we need to address it.
And we are addressing it.
That's it.
We're addressing it hardcore. But here's my concern. Does the pendulum swing too far to the right, where you get the extremists of the right gunning down on these people?
Well, developing now, we are learning more about a homicide investigation underway in Atlanta right now. It is the breaking news we first brought you on 11 Alive News this morning. We were on scene around 6:30 at the City Park Apartments on Fairborn Road. At the time, we knew one person had been shot and killed, and we now know that person was a transgender female. That's according to Atlanta police. Authorities say a neighbor called 911 after finding her dead around 4:30 in the morning, and they are now working to confirm her connection to the apartment complex. Of course, we'll bring you more updates just as soon as we get them.
Which is something that I want to avoid.
Right.
I don't want to see that.
And you're trying to get ahead of it.
I'm trying to get ahead of it.
Have this conversation. Let's try to find some kind of peace here. Stay out of certain arenas. You don't have any children. You have no right to be saying anything about kids and trying to put it into curriculum when you have no children.
Till this day, I truly believe that there is an agenda to get our children okay with it, because once you get a child okay with this and they're accepting it, they'll accept more things as an adult.
Hello? You're wearing high heels.
I am wearing high heels. I'm Ruben.
Hi, Ruben.
Do you know what we're doing today?
I think they're talking about you.
Oh my God, are you gonna ask the questions in the interview?
Yeah.
This is the first time that I've been back at school since I left Australia.
When did you like dressing up like that? What age?
I've been dressing up like this since I was your age.
God, you must be well old.
Do you think I look normal?
No.
No.
You are normal a bit.
I'm normal a bit? I feel so hurt. Is that the laugh you're going to use all day?
Why do you have makeup and lipstick and glitter on?
Because I think it looks pretty.
All right, I'm going to be PC when it comes down to
Yeah.
YouTube,
Mhm.
but everybody knows what I'm talking about when they make you, tolerant and fair. You know exactly what I think they're doing when it comes down to being tolerant and fair. They're trying to make it where it's like it's easier when they say, "Well, have you ever tried?" And especially in college, right? You know, you're in a dorm room. It's late night. You're partying.
That's groomer conversation.
There you go.
That's groomer language.
And right now I have a huge problem with that. So can Superman stop the pendulum from swinging too far right this time? Only time to tell.
Yeah, it's just like you were saying, these particular institutions, and this is my thing. Look at the specifics here. It is as if religious schools are being targeted, like the young man in Canada.
On a normal Thursday morning in February, Josh Alexander would be getting ready for school, but not today.
Getting ready for Tucker Carlson.
But there is a way for Josh Alexander to get back in the class, but it's something he's not prepared to do.
I would have to basically agree to a multitude of conditions that are contrary to my religious beliefs. I would basically have to recognize that anybody can identify as they wish, and that anybody else must identify them or address them in that manner. I wouldn't be allowed near any trans students. I wouldn't be allowed to speak to them. I wouldn't be allowed to be in my classes. Yeah, there's not really a way for me to go back.
In the classroom, Josh Alexander feels that he's talking about the overall issue and not the individuals. As a born-again Christian and as somebody with freedoms in a country that has freedoms, Josh Alexander has some very strong views on this subject, but they're views that many people don't want to hear.
He had a very similar situation. He had a friend.
And this is a Catholic school,
This is a Catholic school. Okay, this was a Catholic high school in Canada, and the young man, and I guess he's kind of a spokesperson. He stands up for what he believes in, and and of course he has the right to do that. And so the story goes as one of his natural born female friends was sharing with him, was a group of them, was just expressing, hey, that she's not comfortable with this LGBTQ transgender person coming into the bathroom with her.
Right.
She's not comfortable with it. She has every right to feel that way.
Just like the swimmer woman.
Same
She's
difference.
going hard because she felt she was like, yo, this is crazy.
It's too much.
This man just comes in, this transgender person comes in with all their parts dangling.
Right.
And just derobe in front of all these women, and they're just like, whoa.
Yeah,
so she's going hard in the paint.
My name is Riley Gaines. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Kentucky, where I was on the women's swim team. I proudly finished my career as a 12-time NCAA All-American, a 5-time SEC champion. I am one of the fastest 200 butterflyers of all time. But on March 17th of last year, my teammates and I and other female swimmers from universities around the country were forced to compete against a biological male named Leah Thomas. Thomas was allowed to compete in the women's division after competing as a member of the University of Pennsylvania's men's swim team for 3 years. We watched on the side of the pool as Thomas won a national title in the 500-yard freestyle, beating out the most impressive and accomplished female athletes in the country, including Olympians and American record holders. Whereas just the year before, Thomas at best was ranking in the 400s in the men's category.
Former collegiate swimmer Riley Gaines, who was invited to speak at San Francisco State University Thursday, is back in the headlines. The athlete turned activist, who's an outspoken critic of transgender athletes, says she was ambushed on campus by protesters. Gaines tweeted this video saying in part she was ambushed and hit twice by a man. Gaines was brought in by SF State's chapter of Turning Point USA, a conservative nonprofit organization. SFSU has not commented on the incident, and police did not make any arrests.
Yeah.
Listen, this is going to continue to happen as long as we're being encouraged to accept these individuals, which, in my opinion, I shouldn't have to accept.
Right. I'm in the bathroom. Like, come on. You have kids, and they're, and that's the point that I'm saying. There's clearly some type of focal point where, and it's being, it's progressing. It is not going away. And so, yeah, we have to address it. You have, kids that don't feel comfortable. This young man was arrested. He's 16.
16 years old.
He's 16. So, and he's speaking, listen, I have friends that don't feel comfortable with that.
Here's the whole thing. Well, I feel uncomfortable going to the boys' bathroom. Well, why do you think the thousands of females feel when you walk into their bathroom? If we're talking about comfortability, you are making 1,000 people uncomfortable simply because you're uncomfortable?
I just want to be clear with you. It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, we spa, condone that. Is that what you're saying? Like I asked. It's so he could stay there. He could stay there. What sexual orientation? I see a dick. It lets me know he's a man. He's a man. He is a man. He is not no female. He is not a female. He is not a female. Hold on. He is not a female, sweetie. Okay, girls down there, other women who are highly offended for what they just saw. And you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, you sided with him. So We Spa is an agreement with men that just say they are a woman and they can go down there with their penis and get into the women's section. Is that what you're saying? What really? What law? What law? Everything back. So women can go into the men's with their breasts. Okay. And then this should happen. We're not going to come back. Yeah, you shouldn't. I wouldn't come back either. Yeah, get your money back. Everything. You got a man with his penis come back. He's a woman. He ain't no woman. Yeah, give her money back. Are you talking about a transgender person? There's no such thing as transgender. He has a dick. Okay? He has a penis. His penis is hanging out. Okay, no, I'm not one. Actually, I'm a woman who knows how to stand up and speak up for my right. As a woman, I have a right to feel comfortable without a man exposing himself, okay? No, you go somewhere else. Okay, so that's right. No, he's not a transgender. He has a penis, just like you do. Are you? I understand. No. Yeah. Okay, it's not okay. It's not okay. Okay, that's traumatizing to see that. I'm a woman. I think this is a place right here, I'm told, only for women. So how dare you sit up here and tell me I don't have a right as a woman to defend? I'm telling you, he has a penis, a full and testicles, okay? And I don't care what it's called. It's a man. You got one? You're a man, okay?
And if we went into the men's section with our anatomy, that would be...
Well, it would probably, but you might not like women, so it might not, okay? And we don't know, but for me and for a lot of other women, they do not feel comfortable, and it's not okay. Okay? So, well, yeah, you're sorry. You should be, sweetie, and you're out of alignment, and this is not right. I can tell you that much, all right? And I know you're out of order. Yeah, it must be hard. It must be hard not being a real man, huh? Try it. So, like I said, I want every woman get all of their information.
The security guard just said that is not allowed.
Okay, well, I don't care what the security guard. He's just security.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Sometimes predators go down and will just go through the woman's side.
Okay, well, no, he's sitting in there. Okay, well, security.
No. He doesn't want to be there.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying he should have not been allowed to. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We know that.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
No,
so.
we knew